Unturned is presented by UpdateAI.
The post-sale operations team has the most impact on the least expensive revenue, but we don't draw that line clearly enough.
Us as CSMs are sitting here going like, I've got $10 million that I'm managing. I've got this book. And what I don't see is the early stage focus from revenue leaders, such as yourself, even from the CRO standpoint, because they're only getting engaged or brought in during those huge, big swing save calls 3 months before a renewal. Mm-hmm. How do we get folks like you to pay the fuck attention? Like a fine wine, aging, growing older, wrinkling.
Yeah. Josh, we need to get you out of that apartment and get you some sun, my friend. You are looking a little concerning. I want to come over and like pink your sheets or something, or at least adjust the lighting on your camera, my friend.
My girlfriend Jess is upstairs and she's yelling, "Yes, you're absolutely right. Get that boy some sun."
Well, what did I tell you? We can do summer Fridays from my backyard, hang out by the pool. You can still answer email.
Yeah, but look at Aaron Thompson chuckling it up, and look at how pale is he? Like he's got. Like,
I was going to say when I'm not.
He has a rosy glow.
Yeah,
he has a rosy glow.
You
don't have that rosy glow.
You're just a little like.
I've been outside a lot. I'm trying. In Portland we get so much sunshine that it's super easy to not look like a ghost.
Josh, when's the last time you ate an apple? Like
an apple?
Yeah. Like,
why is that good for your complexion?
I mean, it is. It's good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that would explain a lot because I don't eat apples because my throat gets tingly.
Ella's throat gets tingly with apples too. What are we doing here, guys?
This feels like it's going to be heavy on the BS.
Oh, yeah. so heavy.
Soft on the CS.
I
was really banking on this.
See, Aaron is here for the BS.
Do you want to know the last time Aaron Thompson and I had a conversation?
Oh, I know exactly when this was.
This was in Washington, D.C.
This was at. Oh, no. I was thinking about the awards. Was thinking about the awards.
This was
I know you guys
DC.
had a lengthy evening.
Oh, that was a great one. The award. That was a fun one.
That was awesome, actually. That was amazing.
I wore the wrong shoes for that evening. Aaron.
John likes to do these things where he goes back to like the last time I spoke to so-and-so. And what John neglects to realize is that nobody that's listening gives a shit.
That's lies. This is lies. Propaganda, Josh. Everyone cares. Everyone cares.
If I'm random listener X, do I care the last? I love you, John, and our listeners love you. And as you know, when I was at Pulse and I did these surveys of who's their favorite co-host, I came in last, right? It was you, Kristi, and then me. But that being said, like, I just don't get it.
But did you ask them, hey, do you like when John relates to our guests in a real and human way?
Yeah.
I don't think that you did. All right. Anyways, we were in Washington, D.C. The reason that I wanted to say this is, do you remember the BLT that we had?
Oh, it's the best BLT I've ever had in my life.
That's all I'm saying. BLT. That is what I wanted to say. Yep. But I need to know the name of the restaurant.
John, this is a customer success program.
Yeah. Yep.
They got great customer success with their sandwich.
Ignore Josh.
I've referred like 3 people to that restaurant since John like so brazenly said, if you come meet us here, you will have the best BLT of your life. And I was like, there's some BS for you. But sure, I got nothing else to do. Let me go find these guys and say hi. And lo and behold, I swear to God, it was the best BLT. Yeah. And the reason it was so good is because they add an egg to it.
They did, yes.
That's what makes it differentiated. It makes it like a breakfast sandwich. They're basically cheating is all they're actually doing. But it was good. It was amazing.
And I'm pretty sure Jeff...
I give up. We're going to be 10 minutes into this thing. People don't even know the guest that we're having on the episode right now.
Oh, they know
Yes,
Aaron
they
Thompson.
do by his voice.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies, you're the only one that people know exactly by the voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Aaron Thompson.
Oh, so well done, John. Thank you. That was the best intro I've ever had in my life.
You're welcome.
Impressive. I can see why you guys have tens of viewers and listeners.
Hey, that's my joke.
Number one podcast.
Do you know what he does? Like that was... Keep going, John.
I don't really care what he does. Okay. Well, no.
It doesn't really matter. I mean, let's be honest.
No,
you guys are busy as shit. I got on this schedule like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
I have been waiting for this moment all of my life to be on this podcast.
Gosh.
I mean,
all of your life.
I feel like it's all led up to this moment here to be able to hang out with the 3 of you.
All right, I'll give you the full intro. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Thompson to the podcast. currently Chief Revenue Officer at SuccessHACKER. If you've done any training or enablement in the customer success space, you have absolutely been influenced and touched by this man and this man's business. We are so happy. Not only this,
inappropriate ways.
Inappropriate. No, but my favorite thing is you will know him by the red slacks that he wears at conferences. Every single time you just see this man going up an escalator at Pulse, and he's got those red pants on.
There's more events out there than just that one that you mentioned.
Yeah, CS100 is actually
CS100
where I broke out the red slacks for the very first time. Was on stage in Utah at the greatest conference of them all.
Yeah,
the CS100. There you go.
Which I cannot wait for this year. By the way,
thank you. Thank
you.
Aaron, you have this cool looking chart behind you. I mean, granted that most of our listeners can't see it, but what is it all about?
The whiteboard or the donkey?
No, I'm not going to get into the whole
that's
why
a
you
unicorn,
guys.
baby.
I get
Anyone
it.
can be a unicorn.
Yeah.
With the right tools.
There you go. Thanks. See, Kristi's got it down. She's got the pitch.
Yeah.
But the whiteboard is some stuff I use to coach, and I don't know how much people can see or not see, but we've got the typical kind of land and expand sales funnel, but we're getting into customer-driven revenue is what this is really all about. And so you got marketing and sales up there at the top, and then everything at the bottom, activate, optimize, renew, really kind of what we do post-sale. But then how do we expand, right? So you got cross-sell and upsell. Most companies confuse those two or don't make them actually differentiated, but they do have a different acquisition cost, which that's another interesting sort of article that I've written. Revenue acquisition cost, or the concept of RAC versus customer acquisition cost, and the concept of CAC, right? We're all familiar with CAC, but that doesn't actually get granular enough, right? With any given customer account, you've got renewal, you've got cross-sell, you've got upsell, and then you've got advocacy revenue. Not to mention coming in through net new the first time. All of those have different overhead for your business, right? Renewal is the cheapest. I don't have to teach anybody anything. I don't have to do anything. It's just sign the paper and away we go. Cross-sell, a little bit more expensive because we probably have, that's like tacking something else on, right? Another product or something. So there's probably some training. Upsell, maybe there isn't training. Maybe it's just raise the price at renewal. And now you've got that upsell revenue. And that's amazing in terms of acquisition and overhead. And then the almighty holy grail of customer success and customer-driven growth is the advocate, right? And driving those referral leads into your funnel, your CSQLs at the 1/13th, the acquisition cost and all of that. So this is what this is, Josh. I appreciate you asking because I'm always...
You're the only person, the first person, I should say, that has ever let Josh look at a whiteboard that he has written behind him. He has asked other guests to explain the whiteboard, and they have denied him.
Oh, then you got this one here. This is
no. We're good. We're good. So I want to challenge.
He's going down the beautiful mind path real quick.
So listen,
you don't understand.
You know what? I come off like a prick, but then at the end of the episode, people are like, "Oh wow, we appreciate the structure that you lent."
Thank you, Josh. So, yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, wait. So this is a challenge to John and Kristi. I want to stay on this because I think we found a little thread that we can pull. And rather than going and talking about like BLTs or the last time like John performed in front of Aaron and whatever, like I want to know, can you guys stay on the topic of RAC for 5 minutes and go deep with questioning so that our audience can get like really cool insight and education from Aaron about
I really
RAC.
don't like people telling me what to do, Josh.
I know.
Okay. All right. So Aaron, why don't we start with just break down the acronym again? I know you covered it quickly, but let's just start with that because we've got a lot of people, you use a lot of acronyms. All 10 of our listeners would love to know what is RAC?
The tens of eyeballs that we get on these things. So you can go to redslacks.com and read the article to really go deep. And it'll take you all of like 4 or 5 minutes to read it. But that being said, there are 5 revenue streams. And so RAC stands for revenue acquisition cost. So instead of looking at a customer holistically and what does it cost to acquire them, which is typically calculated through all of your top of funnel stuff, right? What did it cost you to market to them? What's your return on ad spend and all of that? And then what's your sales cycle look like in terms of your overhead there to actually get them to decide to become a customer, all right? There's your CAC as we all have calculated it. And you take that sum, you divide it by the number of customers you've got, and you've got your average customer acquisition cost. That's great. But that doesn't account for anything we do post-sale. And in customer success, we're always trying to drive what we do back to revenue. We're always struggling for a seat at the revenue table. We're always complaining that we don't get enough credit for the 90% of post-sale revenue that we're responsible for and all this stuff. But nobody actually tracks back through either dotted lines or a straight line between renewal revenue. Yeah, we typically calculate that with GRR and NRR and what we got. And then expansion revenue. But even amongst expansion, we look at it as NRR. That doesn't tell me enough. I need to know, was it cross-sell or was it upsell? Because those have different overheads to my business, and we lump them all into expansion. But that doesn't, like I said, it should matter to me. And as a CRO who lives in customer success, I'm always thinking revenue and CS and CSMs and what we do every day. But so those are your next two. You got renewal. Well, you got your net new, obviously. That's your first revenue. And that's the most expensive you're ever going to have. You got all that top of funnel work, onboarding, implementation, configuration, all the Asians, if you will, right, to get them up and running. And then now you got your acquisition. So there's your most expensive. Renewal is the least expensive. And then the two expansion revenues, cross-sell and upsell, are somewhere in the middle. And then typically the most expensive, or I should say the least expensive way to generate net new logos is through that advocate referral revenue, right? Yep. You say they got the funny looking logo, but what that dude with the whiteboard said made a lot of sense. You should go check out Success Coaching. Now you've become my advocate who you talked to. I did not have to market to. I did not have to do that top of funnel demand gen and awareness stuff. They found out. And I can do it through different ways. Like Spotify is genius at this, right? Yeah. The Wrapped campaign at the end of the year. That is not only an annual business review showing me the value I got for my $9 a month last year in terms of thousands of hours of music and where I fall in terms of the overall listeners of the band The Killers, which is my favorite band. I was very proud to be in the top 1%. And so what do? I go post that on social media. I've now advocated for Spotify. Not that a lot of people don't know what Spotify is, but that then drives leads through that side funnel, if you will, or side door of the funnel, where they didn't have to do demand gen and awareness. And now they're just evaluating Spotify for their listening habits and behaviors, et cetera. And some will decide to become a customer.
Aaron, so that's awesome. It sounds like you mentioned one thing in passing. You said that we know that the CAC, right, the cost to acquire a customer, is the most expensive. And then when you said that, something kind of flickered in my mind, which doesn't happen often, which was, is he coming up with this formula as a way to demonstrate that, like, the value of customer success in post sales, that we can actually drive revenues for less cost than top line revenue for pre-sales?
100%. Yeah, right. The first time they go from up here, well, for those who were listening, top of funnel to bottom of funnel, that's going to be the most expensive acquisition cost because we had all of that top of funnel activity. But then after that point, we really most CS leaders just look at GRR and NRR, which is just simply saying renewal or renewal plus expansion. But they're not taking it that next step to say, of the expansion, what was cross-sell and what was upsell? Because those have different varying overheads to our business, like I talked about earlier in terms of training, right? And then certainly what we struggle to track is the advocate and that referral revenue and our ability to actually tie back to the customer success qualified lead of a net new logo. That is the cheapest way you're ever going to get a new business unit or a new company or a new logo, whatever, right? What is typically the most expensive customer acquisition cost, now we've generated it at a much less expensive clip. And that's what we as an industry have continually struggled to track to then prove the efficacy of what we do. And as I move into customer experience, I've been speaking a lot of their conferences this year. Spoiler alert, they've got the same challenges. They have a hard time talking about or drawing that direct line between what they do every day as an organization to that top line revenue of the business, and then obviously trickling it down to the bottom line.
How do you calculate those costs? How do you, like, renewal costs? Okay, is that just the cost of the operating costs of all the CSMs and post sales, or what's the divide of cross sell costs versus upsell costs? What's nice, I would think, about the top of funnel costs is it's all pretty isolated. You know that your AE and that your BDR goes to your CAC. How do you 100%, right? How do you calculate these metrics in real life?
Well, at Success Coaching, how I track it is through two different fields. I've got lead type and deal type, or lead source and deal type. And that's what draws back to the overall CSQL number. And so they've all got different sort of inputs that go into my formula to be able to calculate that. And I could share out some like ratios and stuff, but today we generate 1/3 of our revenue is net new and 2/3 is the CSQL, whether that be considered renewal, expansion, or the advocate. But that's how you track it. Then how you calculate it is exactly that. It's going to be different for every company, of course, right? What does your renewal cycle look like? Do you have a renewals team who's involved, or is it much more of that natural byproduct of the customer life cycle, right? If we have done customer success correctly, we shouldn't have this big Herculean account save play at the end of the contract to get them to renew. If we do have to do that, then there is going to be some additional cost involved in that renewal number to really calculate what that was. But at the end of the day, it's ironic to me as I've gotten into the rack world, and this is just a term I made up. I'm looking to trademark it, even so. Because I looked and I was like, has anybody ever said? I can't find anything out there in the world about this, but I think it makes sense. And as I talk to leaders all around the world about it, they seem to think it makes sense as well. What's ironic about it is the most expensive revenue streams we have the least amount of input on, and the least expensive revenue streams we have the most amount of input on. So the most expensive net new, we don't have anything to do with that, right? That's all marketing and sales. The least expensive renewal, we've got tons to do with that in terms of helping drive that renewal and make that again, like natural byproduct of the life cycle, for example. And then in the middle, and I just did a talk in Toronto 2 weeks ago about that. And I'll have it on Red Slacks here pretty soon, where I actually draw across the 5, and it's completely inverse of the impact that everybody post-sales, whether you call it customer success, customer experience, client success, whatever, but the post-sale operations team has the most impact on the least expensive revenue. But we don't draw that line clearly enough as an industry.
Okay. I love this so much. And I want to get you on record just because Kristi and I are like really, really deep into this world right now. Like, are you saying that customer success is a revenue driver and part of sales?
Yeah. I know, shocking.
Okay. Said it here first.
And every day since.
Certainly said that yet.
So, okay, no, but you talk about the control, and I think this is unique to customer success, right? Like we as CSMs, almost even as ICs, have more control over like the largest swings in cheap revenue, I'm putting in air quotes. But then you go talk to a GAD, you talk to an AE or somebody that's like on the frontline sales, and it's all their senior leaders that are setting process around how to, top of funnel stuff, right? So like those people are taking directions and swimming, in the same direction as the whole organization from revenue and marketing and, top of funnel stuff, right? But they don't necessarily have the impact other than I'm going to follow these processes and obviously like close and all that kind of stuff. But that is a Herculean effort. But us as CSMs are sitting here going like, I've got $10 million that I'm managing. I've got this book, and it's expensive revenue to lose, but it is cheap revenue to maintain. And what I don't see is the early stage focus from revenue leaders, such as yourself, even from the CRO standpoint, because they're only getting engaged or brought in during those huge, big swing save calls 3 months before a renewal. How do we get folks like you to pay the fuck attention to what's going on when that revenue is expensive to lose and cheap to maintain?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different options out there.
I need one answer, clear and concise.
UpdateAI. There. Is that the right answer?
Josh just gave me the middle finger. It's great. I love it.
I mean, being able to monitor for that, obviously, throughout the life cycle is important. That's where tools like Client Success and UpdateAI come into play. I advise on a product called Sturdy.ai that creates these signals, right? Expansion opportunities, like good things as well as bad things, and then kind of surfaces up the next best thing to work on, depending on your configuration and stuff like that. I think we've got to be able to do that. You got to be able to listen well enough, somehow, some way, using whatever products, whatever your tech stack looks like. And if we can't, we've got to enable the people to be able to identify those moments of truth, if you will. But it's really about defining, delivering, and demonstrating what success is to my customer.
I wish you would have written that in a handy place.
I know. If I only had that available,
visual representation,
it would be so nice. Now that Pat Sajak is out of a job, I'm wondering if I can be the next Vanna White. Define, deliver, and demonstrate. Like that's it. If we do that effectively, that's what leads to that predictable renewal. And then from there, we can talk about all the additional revenue opportunities. But obviously the table stakes and kind of the where we start is that renewal number. And what we're talking about is how do we do this and remove some of those friction points. Well, I would say customer success is not just a post-sale organization. First off, as a CRO, we've got to see customer success as a culture, right? It's a business growth strategy that says we're going to grow the business from this point upwards, as opposed to just focusing like we did back in the day when we were selling everything transactionally. So with that being said, my AE can be doing customer success.
Yes.
They can be laying the tracks of success planning. That's what this is all about. 75 to 90% probability to close. We should be doing that first D, defining what success is with you before you're even a customer, so that we know that what we're selling in terms of the outcome you're looking to achieve is something that is realistic and in line with what you're purchasing, and we can hopefully align the expectations accordingly. And that could be the AE, that could be a CSM, that could be like Penske Trucks and other organizations that I consult with that have a role called the success planner. There's a person who reports up to success, but they operate with sales, and they do it in those late stage deals to start mapping out on a success plan canvas, what does success look like? That then transitions with them into the post-sale. And now we're all pulling in the same direction when we get to activation, when we get to onboarding, implementation, et cetera.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh shit, you thought it could do this? Well, now I hate to break it to you, you can't. And here's the bad news is now you got to like fight that uphill battle. And I'm not saying that sales is overselling when that happens. Maybe that's the case. I'm not saying it's not the case. Like it's possible. But oftentimes what happens is prospects hear what they want to hear. Hey, can it do this for me? Yeah, I think we could probably find a way to make that work. I heard it does that. And I think it's like ICP purpose built. And I get the implementation and the onboarding team's like, whoa, what? Like it's not designed for that. Like we need to have a talk. And now we've got that friction and the misalignment, all those expectations, et cetera. So, that's sort of my answer to your question, John, is start sooner with whatever success looks like in terms of what we do from a practice, and understand that it's not just the CS organization who does this. Customer success starts in the product. I did a keynote 4 years ago about that. Like if you can build it in the product, you don't need CSMs. You don't. If you nobody has a CSM for their Facebook account or their Instagram, but we get what we want out of it, Spotify, what have you. We can look at the direct-to-consumer world and all of the other side of it and what they do through automation and built-in product, and learn a lot on the B2B side. And so customer success is everything: product, marketing, sales, delivery, operations, onboarding, everything. It's about how we do things, not who does them specifically.
Okay, let me ask you a question, because you're talking through, number one, my heart. I love this. But also, this sounds like a very mature organization. So you're working through specialization. You talk about having, a success planner with Penske and some of these other roles, right? Let's kind of back it up a little bit, because I know a lot of our listeners are early stage, right? And so these processes are generally fighting against an organization that has to be sales led. And this is where a lot of kind of, I want to say the poison, even though Like, I know that we don't always need to fight with our salespeople, but like the problems kind of start in those early stages where you just have to close. Well, and you have to prove. Go ahead.
I want to actually contribute value to this because we are one of the
Tell us about being early stage.
Yeah, well, we're one of the earliest stages, right, that you'll find. And like we have one CSM, our head of CS, Jess, and then we have one full-time sales and then myself. And we do what Aaron was just advocating for. As I was listening to him talk, I was actually thinking that executing on what he was suggesting would be more difficult in a larger organization. For us, it's super easy. We have this thing called a sequence of events. You could call it a mutual action plan. You could call it like whatever you want. But literally, as we go into our proof of value, we call them proof of value, by the way, we don't call them trials. But as we go into the proof of value, before we go through that onboarding, our head of CS and myself in proxy of sales sit down and we say, okay, what are the success? Like what's success for this trial? And it's super easy because we're small and agile. So I don't know. That's just my experience is that I think at any size company, you should be doing this. And it's actually maybe even easier when you're smaller because you have such like that white glove concierge service. But Aaron, you're the vet.
No, I appreciate that, Josh. Thanks. I'm done. I'm good. I don't have things to
Hey, everybody, it's Josh. I'm taking a quick break from the podcast to tell you a bit about UpdateAI. I started UpdateAI to solve two major challenges for CS teams. The first is that we save CSMs 4 to 5 hours per week with our productivity through AI. Secondly, we give leaders a window into all the conversations across each account and the entire portfolio. So we help knowledge transfer, we help increase the coverage model of your CS teams, and we help you detect emerging patterns in what your customers are telling your CSMs across all the risks, product feedback, advocacy moments, and expansion opportunities. So come check us out at www.updateai. It's completely free to sign up and trial.
What I thought was interesting, and what I always think is interesting, is the term sales-led, right? We have to be sales-led. And frankly, I think that's bullshit. I think it's, again, missing the mark. What you actually mean, I think, is you have to be revenue-led. Mm-hmm. And right now, as you're going to market, that revenue is going to start up here because you don't have a whole lot of revenue down here yet. But at the end of the day, you want to focus on being a revenue-led organization, not a sales-led. Because that could, when we talk revenue, now we're talking renewals, expansion, all of the goodness that happens down here. And as you mature through your go-to-market and you've found your product market fit, this is gonna ebbs and flows, right? Up economies, first mover advantage. You hit that product market fit with the window, and you're getting all this traction of net new logos. That's great. They're gonna all end up down here, though.
Yeah,
and you're gonna want to keep them, right? You can't grow if you don't keep them, right? Typically, we need them to buy something more than once from us for us to be even breaking even on that acquisition cost that we talked about before. So when this slows down, then everybody focuses here. And that's what we're seeing right now in the industry, right? Is like, oh, damn, it's hard to get new customers all of a sudden. So if we change the mindset from sales-led or customer-led or product-led to just simply revenue-led, like, I don't give a shit where the dollar comes from. I mean, I do, because there's more expensive acquisition costs down to least expensive, going back to our rack conversation. But at the end of the day, I want my organization to be revenue-led. And that's going to be a combination and a blend between top of funnel and bottom. And there's going to be levers that are pulled and incentive plans that can be altered, right? Based on what I want to focus on, whether it's new market acquisition or growing the current customer base and trying to really solidify the revenue that we've already got, or both. And, like I get that question all the time, like, well, then sales will never let us in here, right? They're protective of the deal. They'll never let us in to do the success planning. Like, they will if you're clawing back renewals. I guarantee they'll let you in and start doing this stuff, right? It's all about how you set up those incentive plans. And so what we see is like old school transactional incentive plans, but in a subscription economy where we get a little bit of money over time. So we pay all these big commissions at the deal sign, but we haven't even acquired the revenue to offset the acquisition cost, much less necessitate some kind of a spiff or a variable compensation or a bonus or whatever. And so that, anyway, aligning those two will allow you to execute this concept of customer success.
Yeah.
Right.
I've always loved it.
Aaron, so hold on. So you obviously, you work with a ton of customers. You've seen a lot. Tell me, what organizations have been successful in reframing this, and what did they do to get there?
We worked with HP years ago to change a product-led company to be one of customer centricity. And they have extensive, they're obviously old school, not born in the cloud. Like, it's much easier when you're born in the cloud and you're like, you've always operated on this repeatable revenue model, and you've been a subscription-based company. But HP and their device as a service organization was leading the charge to move from product-led to customer-centric. And they have such an extensive channel partnership in terms of how they actually sell their products and services that they're even one step removed from most of their customers. And so we had to work with them on how to actually do this. And I said, well, how do we know if we've done it? And one of the things was there's an award at the TSIA Awards in Vegas every October around this. I'm like, well, what are the criteria to win the award? And so I start working with my contact over at HP and helping him achieve that and win that award. And then he goes on main stage, he wins it, he goes on main stage in Vegas and he puts the donkey logo on a screen and he drives like thousands of leads into our funnel. Like, people found out about us that never would have found out about us because we helped him be successful. That's one example of kind of how we've seen this play out. Now, that had very specific criteria on what it meant to be customer centric, et cetera. But I think it's different in every organization. And what this maturation looks like is really dependent on when were you born? Where were you born? Were you born in SaaS or were you born on-prem? And now you have to retrain your customers and your sales teams to, align with this repeatable revenue approach. So it's going to be different for every organization. But at the end of the day, incentivizing teams on the same revenue that the business incurs is where I think it sounds simple, right?
Say that again.
Why would we pay commissions on shit we haven't got yet?
Yeah.
But companies do it all the time because salespeople have been selling that way for 25 years. Well, I got news for you. Back in the day, we got all that money up front.
Yeah, you're right. You sold it and you got a check for $200,000 and you're like, here's your bonus.
Exactly. Like, my first software implementation took 2.5 years. It was in the healthcare space. It was on premise. I was there, boots on the ground as a trainer and then implementation consultant for 2.5 years straight. We had an average run rate of $1 million a month for 2.5 years to put this thing in place. So that, when you sign one of those deals, yeah, it makes sense to go ahead and pay that big old commission check. But when they can come and go as easily as they can now in this subscription economy, we've got to start incentivizing people in line with the revenue. If I'm a salesperson, I like that if you do it right. Because what that means is I should be getting a nice renewal check every year, every 3 years. Every new contract, I shouldn't have to do very much work.
Well, it's like the insurance model, right? I mean, those guys that are selling insurance premiums, they get paid out every single year, every single time, because there is continual value in revenue.
And what is an insurance policy? It's nothing but
it's a scam, but
right? It's a promise.
It's a promise
of service as a service. Like, the business operations of that work so similar to SaaS companies, and yet we don't seem to operate the SaaS companies. We incentivize as though we're selling physical products, but we are not.
We're not. Yeah.
We're selling the access to those, and yes, achieving the outcomes, et cetera. And with that low barrier of entry, low barrier of exit. And so, very long answer to a very short question, Kristi, but like, incentivizing in line with our actual revenue is probably the first place to start, right? Our revenue acquired, not the contract deal signed or what have you. When we get $1, that salesperson should get a different percentage of variable compensation. I've also got that in the rack article, but net new sales should get the lion's share of it because we didn't have much to do with it, right? Renewal, I want sales to still get a good heavy percentage of it because I want them to be incentivized to sell to the right customers the right way. I want to incentivize them on that renewal number. Now, upsell and cross-sell, that's going to be the CSM and the account manager because they're the ones who found those leads and those opportunities for expansion, et cetera. So they should get a higher percentage. And then this advocate CSQL referral revenue, that's actually the CSM. I want them to get the lion's share of that one. But on the renewal of that one, I want that to go back to the AE because, again, I want them to be incentivized to sell the right way. And if our goal is to keep customers in perpetuity, which it should be in the subscription economy, then we want to incentivize the salespeople to get that revenue in perpetuity, to John's point, like a insurance broker.
Aaron, what would you do as a first step to become a agent of change in this? It makes perfect sense. I love the model you're advocating for. How could we make such a drastic change in the entire ecosystem?
Well, I don't know if it's a drastic change or not. It all depends on your organization. At Success Coaching, it's not a drastic change because that's how we're tracking our dollars, and that's how we incentivize our teams. So it all depends on the organization. And obviously, I get that question a lot, right? Like, well, I'm just an individual contributor. What impact can I make, right? I can't make them change things, but what you can do is start tracking these things as best as you can estimate. And it doesn't have to be perfectly, accurate or whatever, but starting to paint some kind of a picture of your impact on the revenue of your book of business if you're an individual contributor. Obviously, we've got GRR and NRR numbers, but let's look at the CSQLs and try to really figure out when have we been able to advocate, and then work with your SDRs or BDRs or whoever's doing the initial qualification of a lead to make sure you find out where they came from you. Did they come from up here or did they come from over here? They found out about you somehow. It's amazing to me how many organizations don't even vet that out in the qualification process of, did you Google us because you had a pain point and you found us on your own? Or did someone talk to you about us? Or was it a combination of both, right? But actually vetting that out so that we can start to track those referral leads is critical. And if I'm a leader, I can do this for the whole business or attempt to. If I'm an individual contributor, maybe I can only do it for my book of business. But it's sure as hell going to help when I get into my review season and trying to show my impact and efficacy as a CSM or an individual contributor, if I can paint that revenue picture. And that's what it's, whatever impact I have and I can actually control, that's what I've got. But at the very first step is to start calculating it, Josh, to answer your question. Yeah. Start calculating something. Don't, and have reasons behind it, have logic behind it, why you're using those numbers. And then you're going to have to iterate. I'm sure it's not going to be 100% accurate, but it's going to be a place to start. So many just don't even calculate it at all. And that's a big difference between the CX world and the CS world. CX is so data-driven. They've been doing this for so much longer than us that they are much more skilled at looking at macro and micro data sets and really understanding, at least what adoption, engagement, where does the customer fall off? Where does the user fall off, right? How they figure that out in the direct-to-consumer world, it's all data. We could be doing the same thing in the B2B world, whether it's related to engagement, adoption, just like them, or just revenue acquisition and revenue attribution, looking at it and trying to really understand where are these dollars coming from, whether it's my little book of business because I'm a CSM or the leader or whatever sphere of influence I might have. But start by calculating it somehow, some way.
Mic drop.
BLTs. Let me talk about BLTs.
Do you have a template or anything for how folks can start calculating it? Like if you say that's great, but if I'm an IC somewhere, okay, that sounds great, Aaron, I'm going to start calculating it. Where am I going to pull that out of?
Where are you going to pull how to calculate your impact on it?
Yeah.
You're going to start by calculating what is your renewal rate in terms of GRR, right? Then you're going to look at anything that you are directly involved with from an NRR perspective, figure out which one is a cross-sell versus which one is an upsell, call those out. And if there's others that you can pull in as well, right? But at the very least, I was talking to a client. They mentioned a pain point. I said, oh, I think we have a solution for that. They said, how do I find out more? That then converts to an expansion. I found that lead, and I should know about, right? Because I was the one who had that conversation. So tracking that, paying attention to that. And then this is going to be the trickiest one, because you're going to have to work with your BDRs, whoever's doing that qualification at that top of the funnel. But you can start there. I don't have a template for this. This is what we do from a coaching perspective, and kind of what we sell is aiding people in this calculation process. So I'd be happy to talk to people about how to help them. But no, I don't have an out-of-the-box.
But start tracking your assists effectively.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm amazed at how many folks don't do that today. You know, they have a handoff, they identify it, but they just don't keep track of that stuff. And it's really not that difficult to do. We have a very lean team at Success Coaching, and we do it. Now, obviously, our product's very different. Nobody buys the same education twice, right? I might be a client success or an UpdateAI customer for life, because I've always got that pain point you're always helping me solve. Education is more one of an upgrade, right? Level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to, you know, and then if you get through all of the content, well, you're not going to keep paying us money, right? If you watched all of Netflix, you wouldn't remain a Netflix customer. Same kind of thing with us. We've got a different sort of business model. But that being said, we still track it with a very lean team through, again, those two fields is really all it comes down to, is lead source. How did you find out about us? Where the hell did you come from? And then deal type. And those two combined help me calculate that CSQL number.
That's
Astounding.
Great. Well, number one, I think in general, we need more guests with a visual media behind them. I really appreciated the visuals of your whiteboard. For those of you that are listening to this in audio format, I think that you should go watch the YouTube for sure. This specific episode. No, this is really great. I actually really love, especially coming from the revenue side that you're in. Honestly, like how passionate you are about making sure that like a lot, like the things that we're paying for, like our employment, our spend, our bonuses, all that stuff, align with like the bigger vision of what we want from a customer. And you're right, this absolutely is true. If we are truly here for retention and growth, which is where the cheap money is, why are we not monetizing absolutely everything for that 2, 3, 4th year of renewal? And if we start, I mean, the ideal, right? I know we're not there today, but if our sales leaders are used to getting paid on that 4th year of a renewal or whatever you want to do, they're going to be really stoked when they are starting to learn how to sell those deals and coming into those deals and celebrating those wins. And then it's not just that day one close that you got. It's actually like, hey, look at this customer that I've nurtured through a maturity process that is sticky in a way that we've never seen before.
The other piece, by the way, is it's going to help you with your retention of employees.
Oh, absolutely. Because they want to get paid on that 3rd or 4th year. Absolutely.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good point, Josh. But yeah, you know, if I've been there 3 or 4 years and I've got this book of business that I'm just getting a free check every year because they renew and I get 5% of whatever their renewal contract dollars are, and I don't have to do any work for it, that's going to build over time. And that's going to really incentivize me to stick around.
Yeah.
Okay. Kristi, you got anything?
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? So listen, your main point here when I asked my question was incentivizing them correctly. And I'm all for that. But I hear from a lot of folks, right? A compensation model for this is going to look a little different than what CS are structured for today. Yeah. And I don't see a lot of CSMs who are like, lower my base salary and increase the accountability through quotas and targets and all of that. So everyone wants the upside, but nobody wants the downside. So Aaron, what are your thoughts there?
I think that you're 100% right? They want to operate on like a customer support compensation package that is completely safe and has very little variable to it. But they also want their cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
I want to, and so I don't know what the answer is for that.
Oh, well, no, I was told you were going to have all the answers today. So I'm going to need you to come up with something.
Where on the whiteboard is the answer?
Thank you.
BLT. The BLT is so damn
I'm gonna need you to answer the question, Aaron.
What I would say is, first off, the ideal customer success manager skill set, as I believe, and I'd love to hear all three of your thoughts on this as well, is someone who has been my customer, first and foremost. I want someone who has experienced the pain point that we help solve, or the pain points that we help solve. Then I can teach them the customer success skill set.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a pro SME in the CS space.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know there's two camps. We did a little LinkedIn post about this not that long ago. People have different feelings about different things. So you're pro SME.
I am. I'm 100% pro SME. If, as opposed to, let's say you've been a CSM for 10 years, but it's never been in my industry, I would rather have somebody who's been in my industry for 10 years and then teach them how to do a business review and onboarding, whatever, right? Success planning, the fact that how to be a CSM. Yeah. I'd rather do that because of the pain points and really understanding. When I was the head of CS the very first time, I had never been in the e-commerce space before. My customers were in the e-commerce space. I had a very hard time really truly understanding what it was like to set up a online store and keep your SKUs all aligned and use Magento or what's the
Shopify.
Shopify, thank you. Yeah, I had never used any of these products. And so I had a hard time, even though I'd worked with customers forever, I had a hard time really understanding what those pains were that they were experiencing. And so ever since then, I've been all SME. So if we start there, then it's a matter of finding people who are willing and able to define, deliver, and demonstrate success for their customers.
Aaron Thompson and that big D. Just define, deliver, and demonstrate.
Yes, the 3 Ds, if you will. Yes. But the...
Risky.
Can't even look. He's giving up.
We're not.
I think it's about finding people with the right personality who are open to that. If you want that more variable focused comp plan, but you really got to paint the OTE, right? The on target earnings for them.
Earnings, yep.
And have them see that this isn't as risky a gamble. Like it's not just your base and then hopefully you get your variable comp. It's your base plus a range of variable comp. And it's going to be a minimum of this if you're doing okay. And it's going to be maybe infinitely high if you're absolutely crushing it, and helping people understand that. But you got to find somebody who's, not necessarily that kind of support mindset, but maybe more of a sales revenue focused mindset.
Yeah, revenue. I'm actually going to flip it on you because it is a revenue focused mindset, because as much as we are making these jokes like, oh, we're a part of sales, it's like, I agree with that, but I actually really like the way that you framed it before. Is I actually think a better way to communicate it is that we are driven by revenue. And as soon as we start putting that hat on, you're right. Like I talked to some gads on my team and like their ceiling doesn't exist on what they could make. Right. And CSMs are not used to that. We get 20%. We have like an 80-20 split if you're a good organization. And you look at that high base and you're like, oh, good, this is stable. I can do all of this. And then you hear about the gad who just made $600,000 in a year and went to President's Club, and you're like, I'm working on those accounts.
Yeah.
Right? Give me my $20. But
people will do what you pay them to do, right? And so it drives accountability and behavior. But people want the safe role, right? It's the problem is the hiring profile that we defined customer success. And I blame our entire industry, right?
Everybody's
this
wrong.
Empathetic, value-driven, not quantifiable asset in the organizational. And I just feel like that's, unfortunately, we did that to ourselves. And now here we are. And we brought all these people in for these safe roles to do whatever BS work that we hired them to do, which is like all activity based, right? It's not revenue based. It's activity based, right? Have your calls, do these EBRs, to have this many whatevers. And that's all BS, right? Because we know that doing those things doesn't drive retention, doesn't drive growth. Yet we're holding them accountable to these lagging indicators of retention and growth and wondering why we're not getting there. So I think the whole model is broken, honestly, if you ask me, and it's got to go back to the beginning. Aaron, I do agree with you. I want to tie it all back to revenue, but I think this requires organizations solutions to go so much deeper than just their compensation plans.
Yeah,
Agreed.
it's the whole cost center versus profit generating part of the business, right? We feel like we're profit generating and we're responsible for all this money down here. What the hell? But we're viewed as a cost center, and we operate as a cost center when we don't have some variable comp that actually moves the needle, and when we're not revenue led. To your point, Kristi.
Right.
Okay. Well, to be continued. Aaron Thompson, co-founder of Success Coaching. Aaron,
not a co-founder. And Todd Andrew will kill you if I don't jump in here. Not a co-founder, chief revenue officer, and partner, co-owner. You could say that.
Oh, co-owner. I thought it was you. I thought it was you, Todd, and Andrew were the three co-founders. No,
they founded it a couple years before I stumbled upon them in Silicon Valley and got involved with this whole donkey thing.
Okay, so Aaron Thompson,
the whole donkey thing with all the D's. I gotta go.
The Aaron Thompson, the Eric Schmidt of Success Coaching.
Sure.
Thank you for being on the program. Have a great week, everybody.
I'm gonna go get a BLT.
Oh, let's do it. Can't wait. Thanks, guys.